Okay, let's see if I remember how to do this. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission Board is being called to order. It is Thursday, August 7th. We are at Nisswa City Hall and it is 5 p.m. And can I get a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those approved?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion
Okay,
carried.
motion carries. Can I get approval of the June 5th minutes?
I so move for approval.
I second.
Can I get a motion or a approval? All those approve?
Aye.
And any opposed? And the motion's carried, which brings us to open forum.
It doesn't get old. There's nobody here. So we will move on to department report. For anyone listening at home, we are having technical difficulties with the video, so we will be sharing our screen with you, which has the agenda on it. So we apologize that you can't see our lovely faces this evening. So for department reports, we last met in June, so I'm going back a little ways on some of the stuff. We did have some volunteers help us at Between the Lakes Park. There were about 8 volunteers from Camp Foley that helped clean up some of the deadfall out there. So we pulled it out of the woods, and then big shout out to Public Works for clearing it all and pulling it all away. We've been trying to trim up some of the overgrowth at Nisswa Lake Park. And then recently here in July, there was an AC unit that had a leak that we got repaired. So otherwise, it's been just a lot of typical maintenance, mowing, fields, keeping up on the sport facilities, things like that. On the recreation side, in July, we ran Safety Town, and then we started it came forward to do a basketball camp. So we have a basketball camp going on right now for 7 to 9-year-olds, and there's 11 kids in that. And then this week we opened fall program registration. So we have fall soccer, flag football, and dining etiquette class. So that is open here in August. Update on the Gull Lake Trail project. They are getting further and further along with the construction on CASA 77 there. So the retaining wall, there's quite a bit of a hang up on that. In July, there was a few change orders that had to get through. There were some unsuitable materials that had to be removed and replaced. But they're cruising along now. And so that part continues. We did close out our grant for the kiosks and maps and mile markers, so those have all been installed. And then, so that was a totally separate grant. And then the amendment to the current grant is also in the works. And so that amendment includes that paving a trail into Nisswa Lake Park and then adding a flushing toilet. So that has all gone through a few different approvals with Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails, City Council, and so we have a proposal from WIDSETH, and we are trying to lay out the plans. We met with the DNR last week to review the butternut trees and their health. So we will be getting that kind of mapped out, and the toilet install is currently planned for spring. Question.
So, Amber, after you do all this, is there still gonna be money left from that grant, or?
Probably not. Well, probably not. It should use most of it. The grant funds expire on June 30th of next year. So whatever we get done is what we get done. But the initial estimate has it close to 200,000 for everything. For the amended scope. So trying to leave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room just because we're in active construction. And then some contingencies built into the next round. And then out at Between the Lakes Park, we did get 5 bench sponsors, so those all got installed, as well as the kiosk and maps. So lots of installs going on. So that's been really good to see, having maps everywhere for people.
That's great.
Yeah, any questions on kind of the operational end of things?
So you have 5 benches. How many more do you have left? Was there 8?
We had 7 spots marked out there.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're quite nicely spaced.
How much were they again?
The purchase price was about 1,500. We sell them for 2,000, so it adds a little bit in there for the materials that go underneath and
Sure.
compensate for a bit of the time. Okay, any other questions on that, or we can roll on to old business? Excellent. So kind of our standing old business is Nisswa City Park here. In your packet, I gave you just a 1-page summary at the budget meeting that we had in April. This was some of the requested information. Just comparing, which is not the easiest to compare because they are such different sports seasons, utilizations. So as best I could, I kind of went through the last 4 years of information and compiled this list. So when I look at how long this season is, I am looking at when the programs start and when the program ends. So for the fields, it is the first day of soccer in the spring to the last day of soccer in the fall. Same thing with the rink. It's the first day the warming house open to the last day the warming house is open. So I tied it more so to the programming versus what Mother Nature or maintenance was doing. And so you kind of have a comparison here, just looking down. When you're getting to the breaking it down by week, based on the 27 or 7 weeks, both the revenue and expenses are pretty even between the 2 types of facilities. As we keep going, you get into wages. Wages start getting a little bit different. I based the field and green space at about 20 hours a week we average, and then the rinks is about 13 hours a week for maintenance. The large differential is in the infrastructure. So if this would be in a fantastic world where we got to put all the money away each year, that's what we'd be putting away annually to cover our costs. So just kind of a side-by-side comparison. The scheduled use and participation, that's been relatively steady. I may be getting better at tracking some of the rentals in the utilization. And then the programs shift around a little bit each year. Some years we don't have like one program or an age group. We've gone down, we fluctuated on our like 8 to 9-year-old baseball, youth hockey, that fluctuates. And so it's a little bit different each year. So that's why it's really hard to compare. So it's a 4-year average. Any questions on this? This is just for information, for fun.
Forgive me, just so I understand looking at the annual capital reserve, this would be like for the rinks and the fields. If we could put away enough to maintain things on a normal schedule, right? Like if we had to replace this, how did you come up with the timeline for those?
Just kind of professional estimating. As we go about replacing things, I update, we call it the matrix. I update the matrix at that, whatever cost it was at that time. And then if I have an idea of like, okay, so the mower this year, the mower costs us this much. We had the mower for 9 years. So the 9-year cycle, This is the next price point, and then 2% inflation over 10 years. So it's just kind of a formula of best guessing and updating as we go.
Thank you.
Good question. It's a very big spreadsheet.
Yes, it is. It does a fantastic job.
But yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys this, since it was requested by city council, so I figured I'd share it with you guys too, so you can kind of see, it's kind of interesting how it's shaked out the last 4 years. Good on that one? Awesome. We will roll on to an update on the hockey refrigeration system. So if you guys remember in June, we've kind of talked about, okay, we didn't get our fundraising goal. How do we want to shift, prioritize? How are we going to run the interim? That's kind of the dialogue during that meeting. The takeaway I had was that if we're gonna break it into smaller pieces, focusing on replacing the playground and keeping the hockey rink going. So with that kind of mindset, I reached out to Carlson Stewart Refrigeration. They're the ones that did the repairs the last time the rink refrigeration system was down. And so they're also the ones I talked to about removing the glycol earlier. And so they sent a technician out to assess the system. You guys have kind of that scenario email that they sent prior to the technician coming out. And so what they found is that there is no refrigerant left in the system. We kind of suspected that going into it. They did confirm that there's no refrigerant. And so if we wanted to get it back up and running, we'd have to meet the newest EPA standards. There's kind of an evolution with the refrigerant world and what we can do. So we would have to meet the most current EPA standards, and it'd be all new refrigerant and then the supporting equipment that would go with that. So I did not get into pricing. I would guess it's over 6 figures to do that. If it's not over, it's probably pretty high and close to it. On the glycol side of it, the glycol's kind of like the antifreeze of the system. He said it appears to be holding, which kind of leads to the assumption that it's not leaking, which was one of the fears. And so it's looking that it's holding and likely still full. And then when they got here, the pump was seized, likely due to lack of use. It's been on one time in 4 years, but he was able to get the pump going. So that's kind of the rundown on what it might take to get the system up and running again. So obviously that's just one factor. Lights are another one. And then kind of the health of the concrete there, the life of that is probably the third component we're looking at. So wanted to provide you an update on the refrigeration system, and happy to answer any questions.
So didn't they mention as well that it would be hard to find replacement parts?
Yes,
that
for
if they had
yeah,
stuck with the old system?
correct. It was used when we got it. It is a very good motor, but over time, all things, it's just harder to get parts for when people don't work on it if it's
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, it says the compressors are no longer manufactured.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's difficult.
Since the pump is working, is it gonna, and I know nothing about any of this, but since the pump is working, is it gonna cost a lot less to get rid of the glycol? Or is the pump and the glycol totally separate? Cause I thought the $10,000 cost was that cost because we just assumed that there was probably some leakage in the glycol.
The $10,000 is to kind of siphon it out, and the labor and then the fees
Okay.
to haul it away.
Got
I
it.
don't know to what extent the pump
Okay. Yeah,
would
I-
help,
yeah,
like if it's a closed system or how they,
okay. And
this is why I need experts.
yeah, and I don't know the technical side. I just assumed that we assumed that the pump wasn't working, and so it would be a bigger process to remove the glycol, but just.
Yeah, I don't know how the pump could aid in it. I imagine it could be helpful, but again, like how if it's a closed system and then you gotta like,
So what does
Siphon it.
this mean for this winter? I mean, reading all this is fine, but what does it actually mean in terms of?
what it means for this winter is likely we'll keep going as we have been. So for 5 years now, the refrigeration system has not operated.
Okay.
We've still flooded the rink every year. And we're just a little more at the mercy of Mother Nature.
So you still flood the rink and you can skate on it as
Yep.
long as it's cold, but if it's not cold like last winter,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can't skate.
so like a couple winters ago, we had 13 days worth of ice. Last year we reflooded it in January, so we're just a little bit more.
Depends on the weather.
Depends on the weather, but we've flooded it every year. And we can continue to do that.
I think part of the asset to it working would have been Hockey Day Minnesota is in Brainerd in 2027. And they're looking for additional spaces, but they need to be spaces that they can depend on. So we wouldn't be able to probably petition to have Nisswa be a space for Hockey Day Minnesota because the ice is not, it's against Mother Nature, you know?
Unless they
So-
brought in a temporary.
Unless they brought in temporary, which they do have that
Mhm.
temporary, and that could be.
That
a
could
really
be an
good solution.
option,
Yeah,
but-
absolutely.
Yeah, so that was kind of a little bit of the catalyst and like, can this operate or not?
Yeah,
Um,
it's good to know though.
and then as we kind of work through any interim here, I think it's valuable information for us to keep in the back of our mind.
Yeah,
So you're saying, Alyssa, that they have a system that you can bring in temporarily that can freeze the,
they have a system that, yeah, goes on top. Yeah, I think War Road for Hockey Day Minnesota put a very similar system out in one of their outdoor rinks. But yeah, it's,
Huh.
yeah.
How much do you know about, so how connected are you to Hockey Day Minnesota? Like,
Trying to get as connected as I can be.
yeah, no, I'm just like, just wondering about, even if let's say we were able to refrigerate it, just, if we did that, does that guarantee that we would get them to be able to use?
We're working on getting this as a space, but they needed to know if it was a viable space
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
So I've been in contact with Baja, my son plays for them, but I've been in contact with like whoever is also working with Baja and Hockey Day Minnesota, just to propose Nisswa as a solution. They were excited we were this far along on the planning of the arena because there's a lot of money that the Minnesota Wild has to give away to build new arenas for the space. So it's kind of a good way to just say, hey, listen, we don't have the refrigerant. So if you want Nisswa as a space, you got to build us the brand new, beautiful rink that we need. I don't know. I mean, it would be a really cool solution.
Yeah,
that
so Alyssa's
could
been
happen.
working various contacts and avenues. I reached out kind of through the generic portals,
Someone
just,
on the city council.
and then
too.
somebody on the city council has had different avenues that
Yeah.
they've reached out in, so
Just-
really just trying to get
Yeah.
any dialogue, direction, feedback, how can we, does it make sense? Is there a way?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish, and this is all just wishful thinking at this point, but the hockey community is so strong in Minnesota. And like the hockey rink has been a topic of conversation now for a long time. I wish that the hockey community really could rally behind the rink.
That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah,
hopefully
because I
get
feel
it.
like that's what it's
Yeah.
gonna take at this point. I mean, not just from financial side, but I feel like with a little bit of momentum, the hockey community could quickly get behind in this rink, because there are very few spaces to
Mhm.
skate. I'm not at all a part of the hockey community, but I know people that are like, there are no places to
No.
bring our kids skating,
Yeah.
or not just skating, but hockey.
There's
I
just
mean,
not.
there's Breezy,
space is super
there's
limited.
Crosby, and there's Brainerd, and there's no other options. And so I think, yeah,
Mhm.
we need the hockey community to step up. I think that's what it's gonna take.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity, so hopefully we can leverage it.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Cause I just don't think the city is ever gonna be able to really come up with funds for something that massive in scale.
Isn't Cross Lake, they're doing that too? That's like their phase 3.
You've got it in their plan.
Yeah, Cross Lake has
And
a,
Cross Lake
part of their
will get it
plans.
By this winter if they think they're gonna do it.
They will too.
Do you know what it would cost to put in, like, to repair the concrete fully?
No, I have not
Okay.
gotten estimates on that.
Okay,
But it is good to know that maybe with the glycol holding, the integrity of the tubing underneath
Yeah.
might
be okay.
be okay.
Yeah,
Cause that was one of my questions, and you start taking off the top and now
okay,
the under is exposed, or you might damage the tubing underneath.
okay,
So, a little bit of a good sign,
okay, that's good.
but yes, I've not priced out whatever that would take.
Okay.
So I know the plan that you guys put together a couple years ago was to completely replace the facility, correct? Wasn't that?
Correct.
But so right now, I heard concrete and I've heard the refrigeration. So if the city just wanted to concentrate on getting the rink, and I purposely don't say hockey rink because I had a figure skater and my wife always told me it's not hockey, not just hockey, Bruce. But anyway, if we wanted to get the rink to the point where you could do Hockey Day Minnesota there, so replacing the equipment, removing the glycol, redoing the concrete, do we have a number in mind for that?
When we did the feasibility study in 2021, they estimated replacing exactly what we have was just over $1 million.
Okay.
So that's using the same footprint, the same kind of perimeter curb.
And the problem too that we faced is the concrete needed to be replaced, the boards needed to be replaced, the lighting needs to be replaced, the warming house needs to be replaced, the maintenance shed needs to be replaced, the parking lot needs to be replaced, the playground needs to be replaced. And so we got to a point where it's like literally the entire park needs to be replaced. And so it's like, we got to a point where it's like, do we try to go all in on the whole park versus put all this money into a hockey rink or all the money into a playground or all the money into pickleball when we don't have a master plan? And we go, oops, we spent $4 million on hockey and we don't like where it sits. Now, that's an exaggeration, but that's where we got to the point where it's like, let's propose that to the community and see if it takes off, because so many things need replacing. And we didn't want to invest into something without seeing it as a whole.
Yep, no, and I understand that. So that's, because I think we're leading up to something later discussion on the agenda. So it's $1 million plus to basically get it back to where it should be. And what would the cost of just that facility be alone? I understand that they all interrelate, but if you were just going to build a new facility, what's the cost of that?
Well, and one of the differentiators is keeping it in the same footprint or relocating it. And so the idea when we did the feasibility study is if you keep it in the same footprint, you might be able to reuse some of like the perimeter curb, and things like that. When they got to relocating it, it was closer to 3.5 million, depending on like the scope.
And that's with a roof, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big thing was, do they want to put a roof on it? Cause then sun and you
Right.
take out some of the weather elements.
So I guess where I'm going on this, Paul, is if you talk about rallying the community, whether it's the hockey or ice community or the community in general, is do you say you want to spend $1 million and get exactly what you had before, but now it's back at least usable? Or do you spend $3.5 million to get a better facility that maybe would last longer than just repairing it?
In the master plan, isn't closer to 8?
When it's in the master plan, that includes everything with the warming house, the parking lot, all the concrete plaza and supporting infrastructures.
Okay,
So yes, there's more components of phase two.
Yeah, yeah.
But if it was just the
The-
rink, the
Yep.
refrigeration and a roof.
Yeah.
Then
it's.
they were guessing it
3.93.
was closer to, and this includes probably some professional services, it's
Yeah.
the architectural, structural, kind of, some of that. Yeah. Good questions.
Yeah, it's a tough line because I think, I would like to say the answer is we should invest in the 3.5 because long-term, I think that's just gonna be a better solution than just building what we have now, but it's $3.5 million that we don't have. I just would hate to see I would hate to spend $1 million and get exactly what that we've had. Not to say it hasn't been sufficient for its users over the years, but, yeah, I just, without seeing the things going in around it, that's a lot of money to spend for something that we might not like long-term. But
I think this kind of bleeds in with our third topic of the local option sales tax. So you guys got that in your packet. We know that there's been a moratorium. That moratorium expired at the end of May, at the end of the legislative session. And so now cities can submit requests to the legislator. They would be due January 31st of 2026. So I kind of put a bunch of information in your packet of just kind of what that process would look like. Frequently asked questions, I think kind of some of the misconceptions like that communities face. The sales tax only goes towards things that are already taxed. And it has to, when you're looking at the revenue, you have to clearly state what it's going for, how long you'll be implementing that tax, and then it expires. It does not go on forever. It goes for a singular type purpose. You have to say what it is, it expires, and it also goes to a vote of the community. So it has to get through legislation, and then it goes to the community. If the community votes no, there is no tax. So I just want to kind of be clear on the front end of some of how this local option sales tax works. If we were going to pursue it, first step is city council and doing a resolution. Within that, we would need to define what it would be going towards, and then also kind of explaining the regional significance of it.
Well, I've been very vocal about the local sales tax. I think it would be almost a crime to at least not bring it to the community and let the community vote on if it would be a positive thing. I know currently a number of our council members are against it. I don't understand why. But I think this town is built on tourism. I think putting a sales tax and letting the tourism help pay for the facilities that they use is gonna be a very positive thing for this community. And the amount of, the studies show the amount of money that it can be brought into this community. I think it would be unfortunate if we didn't at least explore that avenue. Baxter uses it. I just talked with the city administrator of Crosby. They're trying to get it implemented in Crosby. A lot of the communities around us are taking advantage of it. Makes no sense for us not at least explore it. So we can discuss, yeah, I'll probably make a motion to recommend it to the city council.
I agree with you. So. and
Yeah.
then-
It's a sales tax. It's what, a half of a cent?
Yeah.
Correct.
No one's gonna feel it. It's not gonna affect the local businesses. It's after the fact. People won't feel it. People are, shopping downtown. They're not gonna look at you know, the 2 cents that it's gonna cost extra after their purchase. I think the U of M study showed that 60 to 70% of the revenue generated in this town is from outside of the community. Absolutely no reason not to introduce it to the community.
I even think that if you can educate too on like, I think, what did it say, $112 of for the local residents? If you can educate that too, it might be beneficial so people really understand how minimal of a give this really would be and how much it will really
Yeah.
gain for our community.
I think there's an education piece, and I can't speak, I wish Mark was here, I can't speak for the council, but because it's a sales tax, and a lot of our city council members and maybe our mayor ran on
Yeah.
the fact that they were gonna try to lower taxes, and so they're just afraid of saying the word tax. I think that what it comes down to. And so our council members need to be educated, but I think people automatically get afraid by the word sales tax. And it's allowing the tourists to pay for the facilities that they use. I think it just comes down to that. So I think there is an education piece, but fortunately, it's got to start with our council members.
Well, and I would say this to you, Paul, and I don't want to mention any names, but I've had conversations with 3 of the 5 council members, and I think there's an openness to consider it. In fact, the mayor is the one who went to Duluth, to the League of Minnesota Cities, and found out about the moratorium being gone.
Okay.
So I think she's at least willing to have the discussion, which I give her credit for.
Okay, well, that's good, because I know she's said,
Talked to 2 other council people who have indicated to me that they're open to at least discussing it. So I think that you're right about the education. It's the education of council, but it's also then would be an education of the community too,
Yeah,
as to
well-
what you just said. Part of that education is letting people know that a sales tax being, and I use the example, that if you're in business and you had a chance to do a $10 million investment, which me as a business person would only have to pay 3 million, that's a heck of a leverage, right? I mean, I'm gonna get $10 million, I only gotta put up 3 million, that's what I'm comparing the sales tax to. We got a $10 million project, the local residents maybe will pay 3 million, might not even be that much. This study is from 2 years ago.
Yep.
So it might even be less. But the other piece of that is to educate the community to say, you know, if we do these fix-ups, that comes out of the levy, that comes out of property taxes. If you do a brand new facility where you don't have to put $1 million into something fixing up, that comes out of the levy, you're putting money in that's, you know, from the sales tax.
Mhm.
Then theoretically, your property taxes shouldn't be going up.
Yeah.
That's part of that's part of the pitch you make on that.
And it's helpful to see that there's a time limit on it, right? I don't know if
Yes.
you're familiar with how long it is, but
It depends on the project. So in quick math, if we were bringing in about 650,000 as projected annually over 20 years at that 0.5% mark, it's about 13 million. And I did see on a lot of the bills that some of the excess would be put into kind of a maintenance fund. So I think there's maybe an opportunity there to, if for some reason things do come in slightly less, that we could earmark it for future.
Well, the other thing you can do is, so, you know, yes, you need to have a time frame on it. And so the 13 million would account for bonding costs, right? The city goes out and bonds for this upfront to pay for it and to pay for the infrastructure, and then the sales tax over 20 years pays for the bond. But when you get the sales tax, what that allows you to do is also a lot of these grants that Amber applies for require a matching grant or matching fund. So if you have the sales tax and you say, well, maybe it's going to be 10 million to 12 million, whatever, to do your facilities, but now you want to do some additional things that aren't, you know, you can do those things. You have to be specific in what you do for the sales tax, but it does allow you to say people can still contribute as part of that, right? If you want some additional amenities that aren't part of the sales tax, then you can go out to these grants and apply for those grants.
Well, that was gonna be my very next question, if you can use the sales tax as your contribution to a matching fund, like this DNR grant, you know?
Well, again, you have to be very specific in what
Yeah.
you're saying. What I'm saying is, say using the benches as an example. The city has designated certain dollars that they're gonna do for the pickleball and the arena, the ice and playground and whatever else they wanna do. In the community center, I suggested if you're gonna fix up the community center, you can throw that in as part of that. It's all one park, so you can do that all in one park.
Yeah.
But then if there's some additional costs that pop up, and I think, Amber, we need to check on this, but I think you can use some of those dollars that you're putting into the park to then say to other people, if we need matching funds, that would count.
And that would cover the matching funds, in order to get there.
Again, depending upon the grant and how they allow that, but also would allow us to maybe go to a bank or to an individual donor and say, hey, we're putting all this, we're not asking you to fund the park, but do you want to do some benches or do you want to do a specific piece that maybe wasn't part of the original?
Yeah, I think Bruce is, what he's saying, like, you wouldn't need to use the, revenue from the sales tax for matching funds. You wouldn't need to do a grant. You could do a grant because you have to be so specific on the front end of what you're gonna use the sales tax for, that then it would free up grants and any existing matching dollars to help supplement things that may not have made it into the description of the sales tax.
I see.
It'd be a more supplemental avenue.
Thank you. She put it much better than I.
I'm,
You got it,
I'm a
Bruce.
little more hesitant than the rest of you guys, only because a couple of reasons. How is it gonna affect the businesses that are already have a lot of, I don't know what they have to do an effort to make their businesses the prerequisites or however they need to handle the taxes, how it's gonna affect their business. That's one thing. And another thing, I don't think we did a lot of, I think we haven't explored enough fundraising as a local community, going out there and doing more fundraising for it. that's
So,
an-
oh, go ahead.
That's okay. Those are two of the reasons. And the third one is just because I'm ignorant of it, how it works and how much it's gonna cost the city to run that.
So,
and
yeah,
get
there's
it going.
a-
That's another consideration.
a lot of good questions. So obviously the business community would be a very important piece of this. They would be having to update their systems to charge the sales tax and then pass it through and report it. And so there's probably an educational learning curve to all of that and how their systems work, how they add that to their reportings to the state. And as it goes to a vote of the property owners, right? So while they're a very key stakeholder, they don't necessarily get that last vote, but we want them a part of the process.
Right.
I think one advantage of the sales tax versus the fundraising is this could assist in completing the project in a more timely basis. So that's just one pro versus con. Fundraising, we don't know kind of how long it could take if local option sales tax did go through. It could provide a more streamlined and timelier process. And then to your point of what would this cost the city? Very good question, because at any point in the process, there could be professional services that we need, right? There's an educational component. How are we gonna go about that? Are we gonna mail everybody a flyer? Who's making the flyer? Are we just hosting meetings? Is it on Facebook? Do we?
Maggie can just do all that.
Maggie's really good at all of that. But we have to get it to legislation first,
So,
right? So like there's a cost of getting that bill created and lobbying and legislation, and what does that look like? And so those are costs that I don't
But
know.
The cost isn't $655,000 a year. Right?
well, that's what it would.
That's the annual proceeds, estimated annual proceeds.
Estimated.
Yes.
So like, there's a cost. We
To
know
get
that,
that.
we know that, yeah, there is a cost, but we know that's not the cost.
Well, in the end, it's gonna be left up to a vote for the
Correct.
citizens, so,
Yeah, so if I can,
so it's.
I can just supplement a couple of things that Amber just, so first of all, Sherry, I've been through 3 of these, okay, so I'm gonna give you my experience on it. you're absolutely right. You need to, you need to go to the business community and convince them that this makes sense. Because if you don't have the support of the business community, particularly this tax would be probably the restaurants, bars, and
Service
lodging.
industry. Yep.
Not the services so
No.
much, because
No.
again, it's taxing exactly what the state taxes. There isn't anything different. The updating of the system, I don't know if you've looked at a bill that you get now, but there's already a local sales tax on there for Crow Wing. So all the systems that run, the state collects the money and remits it back to the city. So there really isn't any extra thing. They just got to stick in one more line. Crow Wing County's local sales tax, Nisswa County. So updating the system, well, I don't want to minimize that. I'm not saying it, but having been, clients that have retail POS systems, right now it's pretty easy to do. So that, the concern for me would be more to talk to the business community, convince them that this is a good thing, and then show them statistics. And Amber has seen these. I can tell you that just about every city in Minnesota that's had a local sale tax has not lost sales. And you can track that by going to Minnesota Revenue Department and saying, what were the city sales this year? And after you implemented the sales tax, what were the sales? Invariably, they've all gone up. They haven't gone down. So from a standpoint of losing business, I'm with Paul there. I doubt that any of you have looked, maybe even looked and seen that there's a local option sales tax already on your bill, because there is for Crow Wing County for transportation. So in answer to what Paul said earlier, I doubt that most people, there's always going to be some negativity there. I mean, I don't want to say negativity. There's always going to be people that probably don't like it or opposed to it. I understand that, but on the whole, you have to look at what the benefits are in my mind versus what is. So it's an education piece. And then the regional significance, I don't think that that's even an issue for us. We're on the Paul Bunyan Trail. I heard you guys talk about this Hockey Day, Minnesota. That itself provides regional significance. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to be able to meet the criteria. The issue is going to be, and I would encourage if we want to follow through, is you want to have some meetings to have the citizens come in and talk to them about that and make sure that going to what your reluctance is, Sherry, is do you want to do this or do you want to piece this out over 15 years? Because that's what it's going to be
Yeah.
to do it.
And
So
I,
if you want pickleball in.
It's not just me. I am just bringing
No,
up some,
no,
I'm just bringing up some subjects of how people are gonna look at it. And I totally agree. It'd be awesome to have a fabulous park, that we have the hockey, we have the pickleballs, we have the tennis, we have all that. That it would be fabulous. And I think this community would benefit from it. But I also think that maybe, well, it's gonna be up to the citizens anyways,
Yep.
not up to me. It's not up to me. But I'm just kind of looking at, like you said, it's an education. You have to kind of like look at how it works and get the community involved. But fundraising for this area, I just can't believe that we can't get more people donating money and donating time, to this area.
Who's going to lead that effort though? That's what you need.
Well, we haven't found the right person yet.
yeah, and I guess to that point, and I agree that I would love to be able to bring in some more local funds and fundraising, but on the other side, I love the idea of asking the tourists who come and spend every day using our facilities. I would love to ask them to pay as well for the facilities and not have to go and ask the local businesses, the local people to spend more money. I'd love to put it more on the people outside of the community that come in and use it. And I would also, I cannot speak for the business community, but I would think that the benefits would outweigh any negatives about having nice facilities right next door to their business and some of the, what it could bring from a regional aspect to Nisswa. We're already super busy. To have nice facilities, they get used a lot. And to have those nice facilities, I think would only benefit the business community.
Amber, after the vote, did it say that was 2 years? Would it take 2 years to start for the sales tax option to,
I believe it says within 2 years, you have to bring it to a vote of the people,
okay, so.
so
within-
after it goes through a legislative session, you have 2 years to bring it to a vote.
Okay.
And then there'd obviously be probably a little lag time of the sales tax starts.
So say it,
implemented.
say if it went as a, it was approved and it went in, and it went into effect. How long from, what would be the next vote in October of this year?
November 26th is the next election.
So from November to when you start kind of applying sales tax, what's this time frame in that area?
You would probably start at January 1 of 2027.
So it would be the following,
So you're hitting on a very good point, Sherry, that if you go the sales tax route and you're going all in on that, and you're gonna rely on a vote of the people, you won't know until 2026 whether you can do anything, and if it fails, and I know exactly what your point is, you're saying if we do fundraising, can we get started earlier? I have no problem having us go out and do fundraising. What I don't see, having been in this community a short period of time, so I'm deferring to those of you that have been here longer, but usually when I've been involved in fundraising projects, you've had a group of people step up
I know.
and say, let's start raising money, and they're going out to all these businesses and those fundraisers, but I've also known the people that I've gone to. I don't know anybody in Nisswa, so on my own, I contacted somebody at Cayuga Medical Center, and I talked to somebody at First National Bank. I didn't know either of those people. I found out later that, well, I talked to two people. I was talking to the wrong people, that there's somebody higher up on the ladder that our city council people know. And so if you're gonna do fundraising, the issue, I guess my point is we need people that can come forth and say, I wanna be on that committee, I know these folks, and we can go out and raise $5-6 million, because that's what you need to do.
Mhm.
Or are you just gonna say, we're just gonna raise enough to do the playground, and how much is that?
Well, I'm going back to the fact that starting with a small project, I mean, we have money now to start a small project, right? I mean, to do something small and get the community excited about, about it. And the playground would be a really good place to start.
Yeah, we have money for a regressed version of the master plan playground.
I mean, that gets you see something being built, people get excited about it, and then word starts to travel. I'm not saying not do the sales tax. I'm just saying let's not wait for it. Let's start a project and get it going, get it out
I
there,
think that's a great point, great
so,
point.
just in case, because you never know. The money's there, spend it.
I think I would agree with bringing the sales tax to the people. I think, Paul, there's gonna be I think the review with business owners is probably gonna be a little more mixed than you anticipate. I think, so if I'm a restaurant in town, so right now Nisswa, the way it is kind of a stay for a part of the day kind of town, right? Like we're not so big, there's not so much here that you show up at 9 a.m. and you end up through dinner, right?
Yes.
But some of the things that we've talked about with the park, some of the plans, it's like, okay, you add pieces like that and you become a town that people want to stay in for the day. Instead of, oh, we went, we hit the shops, maybe our kids played at the park for 30 minutes and then they cruised out. But not, so some of the businesses in town here will benefit from people staying longer, right? You have restaurants that are gonna benefit from that. But you just, I have a neighbor who's in the transportation business and he's gonna look at his business and go, this does not help me, one bit. I do think there's gonna be a fair amount of, not a fair, but there's probably gonna be mixed reviews.
Yeah.
That said, I'm still in favor. I think it makes sense to at least bring it to the city or the council. Commission, council.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important, like all hearing, Sherry's sharing a lot of what she's heard from the community. I think it's good for us to look at it from both sides. How might the residents feel about it? Pro, against, hesitations, whatever it may be. Same thing with the business community. Kind of looking at it, how can we all work together and understand each other and find a path that's hopefully mutually beneficial, and then everybody can feel confident in the information they've been provided to make the best decision they can.
Yeah. And Jerry, to go off your point, I mean, I don't see the sales tax as the be all end all. If it goes through, we're done. You know, this is a huge project. There definitely still needs to be a fundraising aspect or seeking grants. You know, there's still more funds that need to come in with this. If this, you know, that project is still what our end goal is, by no means is the sales tax the be all end all, but it is, hey, we can start to budget that for the next and plan for that if it does go through. And then we can start to really hopefully build some more ground off knowing we've got X amount of funds coming in. Cause we've been spinning our wheels, you know, for the last couple of years going, we don't have funds coming from anywhere outside of your local lemonade stand.
So I think Sherry makes a good point in terms of, can we do a combination? I would hesitate to wait until November of 2026 to find out if we can replace the playground. I mean, I personally think that that's a priority, and if we can get the dollars, we could go ahead and do that, because you said the last meeting we had that the footprint that as long as we followed the footprint, that ultimately the whole plan would. And one of the things that we had at that was a motion to find out from the council how much they were willing to put forth. Did we ever get a number from them?
No, we haven't brought, budget discussions forward yet.
And the
Okay.
Lions
And I
was
don't
on
know
the-
what that exactly looks like at this time.
So anyway, I guess my point would be, I'm going with Sherry here, that I would like to maybe see us concentrate on doing the playground equipment, the playground equipment. And then the other pieces, that the arena and the pickleball and whatever else we planned in there. If those are things that we want to try to do on a sales tax to go big on that, then I would, and I'm certainly, from a sales tax standpoint, I've already told Amber, I'm willing to lead the charge on that. Because I've been through it, and I'm confident. Dan, I hear what you're saying about businesses, but I can tell you that the facts, if you look at facts and you say, well, it's going to hurt my business, and then you look at the next year and you say, with the sales tax, your sales still went up. How did that hurt your business? I mean, those are the facts that I've gone through with other businesses, because I've been, you know, those questions came up exactly when we were doing that in Detroit Lakes. And the sales, the revenue went up, didn't go down. So, yeah.
So do you guys have a recommendation that you would like me to pass on to council?
I would like to make a motion to recommend to city council that we move forward with proposing a sales tax to the community.
For Nisswa City Park?
Yes, for Nisswa City Park.
I'll second that.
Second by Bruce. Any other discussions on that?
Do we want to address the issue of the playground equipment separately, or do we want to leave that as a general?
Let's say separately.
So would you have to make another motion for that?
Yep, so we got a motion and a second on this one. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Is there something you'd like to put out there for the playground? I will say, there's probably, if you want to execute the master plan level playground, we're probably looking at needing to fundraise to grants, however you want to slice the pie. A good 500,000 more.
I definitely think there needs to be more discussion on it, and I agree with you in the fact it would be nice to like start seeing some progress, but I just want to make sure that we're putting adequate funds to it, and if we are still pursuing the master plan to somewhat of a degree, I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. We're putting the playground in the right location, knowing pickleball is going over here and the ice rink's going over here. I just want to have those discussions to make sure it's all being thought through versus throwing a playground in the ground and trying to build around it, which there's give and take, but I just,
Yeah, so when I,
think further discussion needs to be.
when I
be-
say that number, that would include moving the footprint. Because that was kind of one of the things that we debated in June. And trying to, as Bruce said, we're gonna put it in the footprint of what's gonna go forth with the master plan. And while still keeping the warming house and saving space for pickleball.
And I say it carefully because I don't know if this master plan is still something that we're striving to get, because $8 to $10 million, I don't know how the community feels about it. I don't know if, even with the sales tax, is it possible to get that? And do we need to really scale back on the master plan? Those are discussions too that I just don't feel like we've really had, so yes, I think seeing progress, I think we need to look at it from a totality, holistic standpoint.
And I think we need to hear some feedback from city council.
There was also some discussion about replacing park equipment, you
Mhm.
know, and scaling it down. So we gotta kind of figure out what we're gonna do and.
I think
then-
a huge different, we can scale it down. I mean, regardless, no matter the scenario, we can always scale it down. The big question is what's the footprint it's going in? Is it going in the existing footprint, or are we putting it in the proposed location of the master plan? That's the biggest, because space-wise, it's about the same amount of space. You can adjust your playground equipment to match a price tag, but the footprint is a really big differentiator in the path
Yeah.
forward.
That's really the big issue is how big whether you're gonna move the.
Whether the footprint of it moves or not, if the container stays where it is or we move the container.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amber, but I think we have like $250,000 for a new playground, which is fairly adequate funds just for a replacement.
I'll say we have 200,000 in total for all of parks reserve.
Okay, okay. That's different. Never mind.
About the Lions too, maybe having some.
The
funds?
Lions has a grant opportunity for an inclusive playground. We need to be further in our plans, but there's a lot of grant opportunities out there. To help kind of up the level potentially. But just like anything, you may or may not get the grant, right? Just like a sales tax, you may not get the grant. You may not get a sales tax, so.
Feel like, yeah, just getting off the ground is the hard part.
Yeah.
Once you get over a certain threshold, I feel like there's momentum, there's matching funds, there's grants, there's
Yeah,
there's ways to get from, it's hard to get from here to here, but once you're here, you can get to here.
right.
But yeah, just getting over that hump.
So a couple of things, actually on this playground, I think we actually had a motion in June. You know, when we're looking at the minutes again, it says we asked the city to gather funding sources and what funding would be available to replace the playground at City Park and follow the footprint of the master plan. So I don't know that we need another motion for that. It seems to me we already have that to the city council.
Yeah, at that time, it was, yeah, the motion was to move the footprint into the master plan type footprint. And then, second to that was what funding opportunities and council.
So it would be nice to have a plan put together and then have a couple of public meetings. And to regard to both of you just saying about the public, I think, Sherry, before we went ahead with any sales tax plan, to me, I'd want to have a couple of public meetings and find out if people are receptive. Because if you found out they're receptive or not receptive, then why would you even go down that route, right? There's no reason to do all the planning
Yeah.
and put a vote out there and then find out that people don't want it anyway.
Yeah, and I think
I'm sorry, Maggie, I keep forgetting I have to talk into this.
yeah, it will be interesting to do like a survey, because I know that there's a little bit of bitterness about our recent levy after the purchase of, the land by the water tower there. And so introducing again and a tax, which it's at the end of the day, very different, but I just know that there's some bitterness and sourness in the community already for the increase in taxes and, the purchase of that property. But again, it comes down to that education, because introducing a sales tax is night and day different than putting it out to, to levy those dollars and directly have it affect your taxes.
It'd be nice to have a face-to-face. Get people together rather than doing surveys, because not a lot of people want to fill out surveys.
And by,
They just kind of toss them in the garbage,
I think if it's something,
I mean, just, going.
But
out into
going
community.
out, yeah, bringing people together and talking, I mean, just going face to face, and I think there's a lot of people out there that really don't know that we're even like trying to get funds to raise a park.
well, let me tell you, in the years of trying to communicate things to the public, we gotta hit it from every angle and quite often.
But it's been
So-
but it's been a while. You know what? It's been a while.
Just
Well,
any topic, it's, over and over in a lot of different methodologies,
just
and
walk
that,
to the pickle.
yeah, that could be one of them.
Yeah.
See you there.
Yeah.
But yes, Bruce, we did have a motion about that in June, and it's in your minutes. And then I do think we need to hear what city council's direction is, because ultimately they are the deciding vote. And they might have, things that they want to hear before they even vote on it. Maybe they do want to town hall, or they want to put out a survey, or you name it. So I think we definitely need to hear from city council to help give some more direction on the plan.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple city council meetings coming up, but they haven't fully laid out the plan, and previously, there was a town hall scheduled in September for the public, so I don't have a plan on any of that, I don't even know specific dates on anything, but there's.
There's a lot
I'm
of
pushing,
I'm sure there's a lot of special meetings right now.
I'm pushing, I'm trying to find some resolve to this, some direction.
Well, it would be nice to know what the city's willing to commit, and then to find out, from there, you can start saying it can do some grants, and then there would have to still be some fundraising. I mean, unless you're gonna just do 200,000, to me, which would be a poor choice, because if you're gonna do it, we should do it right. Now, I understand there's some question about what type of base you want, right? You had the rubber pellets in versus the,
Yeah, port in place versus wood chips.
yeah. Although I see Jenkins has a kind of a carpet on their playground. Turf, that false turf. I don't know if that's been an option we've looked at.
Well, I don't think we've seriously looked at anything. We just
It's-
kind of know the price tag of that port in place.
It's less than port in place. It doesn't hold up as long as port in place, so it's a little bit give or take. It's a little bit more maintenance involved with it, but it's a less sticker shock up front.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it seems to me if we want to
Yeah.
do the playground equipment, we need to get a commitment from the council, and then we need to figure out how much other dollars we need, to get to some place that's maybe not 750, but not 250.
Yeah, the playground is very adjustable. It's a pros and cons of that. It's one of the most probably fluid items in the park.
You can do it in phases too. I mean, the port in place is a little bit harder to do in phases, but you can add components, whereas there's some things you can't do the hockey rink in phases. You
Correct.
can't do pickleball in phases per se.
Well, I will plan to relay the motion about the sales tax to city council whenever, that process comes forward. And then, are you guys good if I just kind of go back to the motion that we made in June, and try to get a better understanding of allocated funds, to help understand the playground priority part, and I can't forget about the rink and the supporting infrastructures there, so it's a very large dialogue. A lot of strategic planning. Would that be all right?
Yes.
Just kind of going off that June motion. Okay. Anything else?
Well, I would give everybody an update on this meeting if we got a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I went to the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission meeting down in St. Peter, Minnesota. And nothing too exciting down there. I just thought I'd kind of highlight a couple things. Yeah, and pass that around. That's Rob Mason, Amber knows Rob is, one of the representatives on that commission. He's from East Gull Lake. So it's nice to have somebody close by if we want to, kind of lobby a little bit. I thought Amber and Sherry as chair might be nice sometime to invite him to one of our meetings here, just to get to know him a little bit and him to kind of know what our issues are and see what the commission can help us with. They do have, Amber, you're familiar with, you have to have the grants in by July 31st, but they do have a new program called Rolling Grants, where if somebody has a smaller project, like our playground, that even if it's after July 31st, we could still submit a grant request to them. And I got the feeling that we would, because you have to have a regional park designation. But I got the feeling in talking to folks down there that because we're between a large regional park in Brainerd and Crow Wing State Park and Bemidji, that because we're all connected, that we probably would qualify. There's also a new, I don't know if Nisswa ever does any tree planting, but the DNR has a new tree grant program if we wanted to access any tree planting. And then they have what's called an artist in residence program for parks. I don't know if that's anything I'm not the artist person here, but that they apparently have some parks where they, through the legacy dollars, they'll fund having artists come in and do things in a park, whether it's a performance or whether it's actually real art. So, sorry, whatever real art means, but anyway, so those are just some of the things that I wrote down. And that brochure, if you don't want it, Amber, I would take it back.
Awesome.
Thanks for the update.
But these meetings are, it's just like any meetings is a way to network and
Yeah.
talk to people. And,
It's good that you went to it.
and
Yeah.
I knew some of these folks from when I was on an advisory commission years ago, so it was kind of good to reconnect with some folks.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, it's a good group of people. Anybody else have any final comments, discussions? Our next scheduled meeting would be September 4th. As I mentioned, I don't know when this stuff will go before city council. So we may or may not have have an update for September 4th. But when I do, I'll keep you guys posted, so.
Yeah, and can you email us when you do bring it to city council?
Sure.
So I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but if I have the opportunity to come to the council meeting and stand up and speak, I would.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else? Take
Can I
a
get a
motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
Mhm.
Second.
Good, we wanted to get you in the minutes, Dan.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Bruce, what's your